Welcome, one and all, to Los Altos High School here in Los Altos, California, where tonight we have a good De Anza League conference basketball game for you, where the Los Altos Eagles are hosting the Wlcox Charagers. Wlcox comes in with a record of 9-5, 1-1 in league play, while Los Altos comes in at 9-5, 1-2 in league play. So this figures to be a really, really good contest.
All right. So both teams kind of in the middle of the De Anza League. As you said, Andrew, Wlcox 1-1, Los Altos 1-2. So what are you looking at? What are we kind of looking for tonight?
Well, and Los Altos has a lot of speed on the court. I mean, they're not very big, so rebounding could be an issue. But I think if Los Altos can use their tempo, get up and down the floor, they can have a really successful game for themselves.
A pretty good point on the size. You know, you never judge a book by its cover, but in basketball, you can't teach height, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see how that plays out. Starters coming out now.
He's Red Anderson. I'm Andrew Fury. Glad he could be along here on this Wednesday night, January the 20th, from Los Altos High School. Starters have just finished up being introduced, and we will get this tip-off underway. Winner will be in third place in the De Anza League. There's still Gunn and Fremont at the top, and then the winner will be tied with Palo Alto High School for third.
Starters for the Eagles: Nolan Brennan, Adam Rosenbaum, Simon Heck, Matt Aberle, and Kenny Hamill. For the Wlcox Chargers: Raymond Toloy, Eden Kandik, Manu Turituri, Axel Zarali, and Jace Wycliffe.
So those are the 10 starters that will see the floor first. Wlcox in their traveling black uniforms with gold numerals and trim. Los Altos in their home white uniforms with blue coloring. Pivotal game in the De Anza League is set to get underway. It'll be Jace Wycliffe jumping against Simon Heck at the center circle, and it's won by Wycliffe and the Chargers, and quickly down the other end. The layup is missed, but the follow is good by Zarali Axel.
It's one of those one-off plays you drop. You only get one chance to do it a game.
And now they get a steal. Here's Wycliffe into the lane, off glass and in, a quick start for the Chargers. The press has really been effective here in the first 20 seconds. Up ahead, here comes Tommy Andrews. Andrews kicks it out, it's swung around. Brennan, a three, is short off the front rim, and the rebound comes down to Turituri. Turituri swings it around, now a deep three from Wycliffe is off the back rim, no good, rebounded by Heck. Back come the Eagles. Here's Tommy Andrews into the front court. Hands off to Brennan. Brennan crosses over, gets out, it's rotated. Good ball movement here by the Eagles. And falling down, getting it out. Here's Andrews, a three. That's way too strong. Good box out and rebound by Toloy. Here come the Chargers. Here's Raymond Toloy, son of the head coach for the Chargers. Outside. Swung around to Turituri. Great feed inside from Wycliffe, and now it's swung around. Here's Turituri on the drive, floats it up, good, and a foul. And Manu Turituri to the line to shoot, one. A great feed underneath. And you see the kick out around, and just ball moved faster than the people on that one.
No, I was about to say they were almost passing too much. You know, they were telegraphing the passes before they made them. But the closeout at the free throw line was a little off balance.
Yeah.
So it was easy for Turituri to get around.
Here comes the Eagles with Brennan rebound, and they still employ a press. Here's Eberle, and he gets it over to Brennan. Brennan outside to Andrews. Andrews drives under the paint. He'll float it up and in with the teardrop, and it makes it 6-2. Now they employ a three-quarter court trap. And Turituri gets it in the front court. Here's Wycliffe. Wycliffe drives around the defender. Great jump stop layup, missed.
You got to make that.
Yeah. He missed it. It was last hit by Wlcox. Cost them 2 points, that miss.
That was a chippy.
Yeah. And he's such a good player. He's the best that Wlcox has. Expect their best players to make that shot.
I mean, he's put up so much effort to get past the first level of defense and then past the second. And he's right at the cup.
Here they come with more full court pressure. And getting it into the front court is Adam Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum with it now. Lutz gets it over to Andrews. Andrews swings it out. Here on the drive is Heck. Now it's swung around to Brennan. He drives down the paint. No shot. Offensive foul called on the Eagles.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. That was Heck down low. He cleared out his man. Sort of illegally boxed him out of the way to clear the way for the ball handler. You'll see that done a lot, and it doesn't often get called, but it could be called more often than they do.
And for Simon Heck, that was his second foul, so he has to sit on the bench with 5:40 left in the first quarter. Here's Tortori, and gets into the front court. Also, Chad Go has checked in, number 4 for Wlcox. He has the ball right now. Gets it out top. Also checking in for the first time is Eden Campson, and he throws the ball away. Back comes Andrews. Andrews all the way, leans in. Offensive foul on Tommy Andrews, his first foul, and a great job of Campson drawing the charge.
That was 100% credit to Kandick, right?
Yeah.
Andrews coming in, he basically did his job. You know, he got up and tried to score the bucket, but it was excellent positioning from Kandick, and he took the charge perfectly. Textbook.
Oh, almost a dangerous pass that was stolen. And here's Go. Go into the front court. Gets it over to Tortori. Tortori stutters into the paint, kicks out. Go a 3. Way short. Rebounded by Andrews. Here he is in the front court. Gets it over to Adam Keller for the first time. Keller outside, Rosenbaum a 3. Good for Adam Rosenbaum, makes it 6-5. This is going to be a fun one. Both teams pressing, a lot of action. Game at 6-5, pass deflected and thrown by Brennan. Brennan spins, the great feet underneath is scored down low left by Matt Eberle. Tortori back the other way. They're hardly giving us a chance to breathe. There's a 3 is put in by Wycliffe. He has now scored 7 of the 9 Wlcox points. There's a deflection and another turnover. Outside is Go. Gets it over into the corner and travel. That was Axel Zarali who traveled in the corner.
I don't know about that. It was a long ways to see from here, but I'm not sure about that call. But so we see early on a lot of press from both teams. They're different presses. The Eagles have sort of a maybe a 3/4 court bend but don't break press, which you're probably not going to beat, you know, behind the defense for any easy layups or anything like that. But the advantage to that is that you keep the ball in the backcourt. You get some rest for your front court. And for Wlcox, they have a totally different press. They are nearly all 5 of them are up past the half-court line in the backcourt, aggressively pressing. And you saw the benefit right there. You know, you saw Jace Wycliffe in the middle, long arms, you know, deflecting passes.
That last foul was on Wlcox, and here's a drive into the paint. It's deflected and stolen. Here's Tali Finafuyaki, who makes the layup down low left.
Who was that? Say that 5 times fast.
Finafuyaki with the steal in the hoop. Name. Yeah, you don't see that goes with the category. You don't see that every day. Here's outside. And checking in for the first time is Kenny Hamill. His layup was wildly missed. And back comes Tolly. Up ahead. And the pass is stolen away. Zarali had it taken away. Back come the Eagles all the way. Layup's good by Nolan Brennan. No one's cut him off.
And this game is 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, already 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Finafuyaki gets it over to Go. Go on the floor with Finafuyaki, who has the ball now. Zarali has it now. Out there with Go, Wycliffe, and Michael Stewart. And we have a foul away from the ball called on the Eagles. Yeah, that was a great job of taking it all the way, but a poor job of Wlcox stopping the ball.
You know, I saw Wycliffe in there, and he didn't really aggressively contest that layup, which I was surprised at because on the play just before that, he put up a really nice block shot.
Inbound goes to Wycliffe, and he misses the shot off the side of the rim. And getting it underneath is Stewart, and he will be called for traveling. So a Chargers turnover. That last foul was called on Kenny Hamill of Los Altos. Good hustle by Stewart, but then he just traveled. Now they employ the press. And Keller gets it into the front court. Here's Hamill driving all the way. He floats it out to Eberle. Now Rosenbaum out to Hamill. Hamill into the paint. Kicks it out. Rosenbaum, a three. Is short. Curls out, no good. Rebound deflected around. It comes to Keller, who floats one up off the rim, no good. Keller gets his own rebound and out to Hamill. Goal reset. 11-9 in favor of Wilcox. Ahmad Washington with it for the Eagles now, number 3. Both teams are playing a lot of men. Over there is Rosenbaum. Good catch. Drives down in on Wycliffe. The shot off glass and good.
I want to call out Kelleher for that. He had 2 offensive rebounds and kept the possession alive twice.
And that hard work allowed the game to be tied now. Here's Stewart, who drives and just loses it out of bounds. Another turnover for Wilcox. Here's Washington, great feed over to Rosenbaum. And then he just drives and bakes it off of the glass. And I guess you kind of need to play a lot of these many players when you're pressing for the entire game.
I mean, look at this press. There are 4 people in the front court and, 1 right at half court. That's a really aggressive press.
Yeah.
Especially early in the game. You have to be very conditioned to even think about that.
Certainly, it is designed much like a West Virginia Mountaineer team that likes to force a lot of turnovers. Los Altos with the ball tied at 11. Here's Washington. Steps back, shovels it along into the corner. Driving into the paint as Eberle kicks it out to Washington. His pass is deflected and stolen.
That's sloppy passing. That was the reason for the turnover right there.
And Turturi all the way, but misses the layup. Back comes the Eagles. Here's Washington. Washington shovels it along to Andrews, who drives. Stops baseline pull-up, no good. Way too strong. Rebound comes down to Zerali. Zerali into the front court. Will stop and spin over a double team way short. Comes down and scoring it down the left was Eden Candid.
And the pace of the game is really feeding into Wilcox's advantage. The scoreboard doesn't show that right now. It's effectively a tie game. It's very close, back and forth. But the pace of the game, the back and forth, and the press and the turnovers and and Los Altos's passing only feeds into that. And I say that because the last possession was a lot of one-handed shovel passes and no looks, which are cool, but they work 10% of the time, and most of the time it'll end up in turnovers. And as a coach, it's tough to see that.
As there's a missed shot by Eberle and putting it back up and in was Bailey Thayer, who's checked him for the first time.
And last I looked, Steph Curry is on the Warriors, not Wilcox.
Yeah, exactly. Here's Go, and he gets it over to Turturi. Also, Jake Schaub has checked in for the first time for Los Altos. Now Go with it for Wilcox, tied at 13, final 20 seconds of the quarter. Inside they get it to Wycliffe, who circles out Turturi. Good ball moving. And now it's rotated to Wycliffe. Wycliffe at the high post, kicks out. Open three is short off the front rim by Toloy. The rebound comes to Shaw. Back the other way is Washington. Half quarter at the horn is too strong. Goes out of bounds, and we have reached the end of the first quarter.
So the story of that first quarter is the pace. It is incredibly fast. Yeah. It's a tie score, so the score doesn't really reflect it, but I see Wilcox with a slight advantage because of their size. So when you play a lot faster, there's a lot more gaps and lanes, and Wilcox's size and length, so they have longer arms, they can reach into passing lanes, they have longer legs, they can cover more ground on defense. That plays to their advantage when it's a faster pace because they can muck up those lanes where Los Altos can't in reverse against Wilcox.
Yeah, and so as we get ready to start the second quarter, with the score tied at 13, it's really kind of been how the two seasons have gone. Each coming in with identical records at 9-5, and each team is 2-2 in their last 4 games, having wins sandwiched in between or around 2 losses. Both teams coming in off of a win. For Wilcox, it was at home against Milpitas 81-75. who Milpitas finds in last place at the moment. And for Los Altos, their most recent win came against Fremont at home, 69-62, a really impressive win because Fremont stands just half a game behind Gunn at 2-1.
And another thing to notice, even though the game is pretty fast-paced, they're on pace for what, mid-50s score? You know, it's hard to say so early, but this is definitely a much slower scoring game than recent games for either team, right? You look at Wlcox, they got 80, 77, 75, 80 points, you know, and then they've kind of floated around there for most of the season. Similar for Los Altos, but here it's in the mid-50s, which is surprising given how fast the game is up and down.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Los Altos will have the ball first here in the second quarter. They come out with the starters back on the floor. All five that started the game now on the court. Here's Nolan Brennan. Gets it right wing to Tommy Andrews. Top to Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum pump fakes. Pounding the dribble. Pump fakes again. Is in a little bit of trouble. And his pass is stolen. That's great defense by Toloi. Raymond Toloi into the front court. It's over to Wycliffe, who's played the duration of the game so far. Drives in on Heck. What a block. And a defensive play. Brennan, his pass deflected out of bounds, so we'll stay with Los Altos.
You know, Wilt Chamberlain used to say?
What?
He said, block it and keep it in bounds.
Yeah.
It's not cool to swat it into the fifth row.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Simon Heck did on that last block. That was what was so impressive. There's Brennan. He gets it over to Heck. Heck outside to Andrews, who stops. Gets it out top. Here's Rosenbaum driving baseline and an offensive foul is called.
That's 2 charges taken by Wlcox.
Yeah, and it seems like they're really well schooled on when to take charges. You see, Wycliffe, even though he's a big man, slid right over and was definitely in position.
He was in position. When I see the replay, it didn't look to me anyways that he was, you know, actively thinking, I'm going to take a charge here.
Yeah.
But he just kind of was there in position and was opportunistic.
Yeah, and it was one of those plays where it could have gone either way. I mean, he basically got there right as the contact happened.
You know, you see, he was kind of reaching up like, hey, I'm going to try to block this shot or get in the way and alter the shot. And then he kind of took some contact and fell over.
Mm-hmm. But he's fortunate enough to get a call. So here's Toloi, who's pounding the dribble against a 2-2-1 3/4 court press. Here is Go. Gets it over to Toloi. Toloi pounding the dribble. Handing off to Turturi to Go. Turri. Now out top, Go. Wycliffe pounding the dribble. Gets it outside. Toloi, an open 3. Back iron miss. Rebounded inside by Keller. Adam Keller checked into the left end ball for Adam Rosenbaum. Keller still pounding the dribble, in trouble, bouncing it over to Andrews. Now here's Heck. Stops, looks, feeds it out top to Brennan. He got poked in the eye or hit up in the face at least, and a foul's called on Kandick of Wlcox. 6.5 minutes left in this first half. We're still tied at 13. For Kandick, it was his first and the third team foul on Wlcox. Now checking out is Turturi, and returning to the action is Michael Stewart, number 44.
Credit Los Altos with staying with Wlcox early. Wlcox feels like they haven't, watching the game, it just feels like Wlcox has the advantage. But, I mean, scoreboard.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And another charge. Third one.
Yeah, an excellent play this time by Chad Go. Nolan Brennan is not buying it. He thought the defender got there late, and he should be going to the line to shoot 2 free throws. It's the 16th foul on the Eagles and the first on Brennan. So still no scoring here in the second quarter, and Go with it for Wlcox. He gets it into the front court. Over to Toloi, back to Go. Go pounding the dribble. On top, here's Zarali. Zarali outside to Go, left wing. Around the screen to his right. Go crosses over. Kicks out, Zarali. Zarali outside. Now here's driving in is Toloi. Out, Go, an open 3. Back iron miss. He has not been able to find the range. Rebounded by Simon Heck. Brennan crosses over on Wycliffe, drives down the paint, feeds Rosenbaum, who cuts, but misses off the back rim. Actually, that was Tommy Andrews. And Wycliffe clears, he pushes. It's out to Toloy. Swings it around to go. Now Wycliffe hunts behind the circle. He spins. Side to Zerali, into the paint. Feeds outside, pump faking, into the paint, floats one up and good. That is Raymond Toloy. Wilcox back in front, 15-13.
Nice little move, little floater there.
Pass was deflected, and then Eberle gets it to Andrews. Back to Eberle. Eberle around the screen, gets it to Brennan, who drives to baseline. Great feed inside to Heck, who lays it in. That was the best offensive sequence Los Altos had this quarter.
That was Brennan all the way, probing around the short corner.
And now Chad Go into the front court, gets it over to Toloy. Toloy pounds it outside to Wycliffe. Wycliffe, now to Go. Around the screen does left. Go into the paint, floats it inside. Zerali will lay it up and around and down. Down low left with the right hand, under 4.5 to play in the half. Oh, that was a hold, I thought. And yeah, late call, but the correct foul on Jace Wycliffe.
Yeah, it was a hold. He grabbed his jersey a little bit from behind.
A good attempt, as you saw on that last two, but great penetration down the lane and a good feed to Axel Zerali, who laid it in. We have Turatori and Finafuyaki who check back in. And that for Wycliffe, it was his first, and the 14th foul. The scoreboard showed that the foul was called on number 5. But that shouldn't be the case, as after a steal, a foul down low left. And Wlcox will get the first free throws of the game. 17th foul on Los Altos.
Great play from Turatori. Read it all the way. Boom, right there.
Yeah.
Well, it was a combination. It was a heads-up play from Turatori, but on that, as a passer, you want to pass away from the defense, right? So whenever you see, either in college or in the pros, you see them inbounding, they'll always, or not inbounding, entering into the post, you'll always see the pass go away from the defender. They'll either be on either side away from the defender's body, and you instruct the post player to, hold the defender off on one side and catch the ball with the other hand, and that pass should always come away from the defense. And what you saw there is it went straight to the defense, right?
Yeah.
And so the inbound has got to see that. You got to see where the defender is, see where he's moving, anticipate where he's going to be, and pass away from him. Or better yet, pump fake and give it somewhere else, right?
And this is a 30-second timeout called by Los Altos, so we'll keep it here, 17-15 in favor of Wlcox. And Wlcox will be at the line to shoot one more free throw after the first one was no good. But as I was saying prior to the steal, is that the scoreboard read the last foul was called on number 5, Terran Alvarez, but he hasn't seen any action for Wlcox, so it should have been called on number 50, 5-0 instead of number 5.
Yeah,
Jace
and actually
Wycliffe.
Alvarez is out of the game. He's not suiting up tonight.
Yeah. So that would be another reason, that it couldn't have been on him. So hopefully that was either a typo or they got corrected in that last timeout. Second free throw is good. They split the pair. Eagles have the ball down by 3.
This is that same full court press, and that right there, that's why you don't want to do that. Wlcox got lucky, to be totally honest. But, 95 times out of 100, you're going to make that. You're going to make that breakaway, right?
Yeah, it was an easy pitch and catch. It was almost like a quarterback that had a player or a receiver so wide open, he couldn't believe it and missed it. Here's Stewart, gets it over to Turatori, but in this kind of close game, those are plays that you can't miss on. There's a steal. Here comes Ahmad Washington to the rack. We'll lay it up and in. So the steal that time leads to a deuce, and they trail by 1. Stewart gets it over to Turatori. Guarded by Washington. Turatori outside to Stewart. Gets it right away. Here's Finafuyaki, who drives the baseline. Gets it out to Zerali. Zerali pounding the dribble. Double team, floats one up anyway, no good. Rebounded inside by Shaw. Now Washington, good feet up ahead to Keller, who got hit across the head and fouled. He'll be at the line to shoot 2.
He can't believe he missed that.
Yeah, I think the reason you'll see coming up in a minute, he got hit right across the head by Michael Stewart. But here's the previous play. That was a great steal, and Washington did the rest. But if you get these athletes on both sides out in the open like that, it's a good night. I mean, they're not turning back. Checking in for the first time is Andrade Eduardo for Wlcox, number 1. So Toloi back in. It's right now Washington out there with Rosenbaum, Hamill, Keller, who just made that free throw, and Eberle for the Eagles, who wear the home white uniforms. Here's Finafuyaki. Gets it over to Toloi. Gets the full guard pressure. Keller made both, so they lead by 1. Here's Stewart, a pump fakes. Now steps back for a 3. Back iron miss. Rebound inside by Eberle. And he'll push on the attack. Gets it over to Washington, and we have a foul called on Michael Stewart. That's his second for the Chargers. I'm not sure what Keller was so upset at the official for, because the player went, or the call rather, went in favor of him. But he said something to the ref after the whistle blew and didn't look too happy with what was coming out of his mouth. Chad Go and Turturi return for the Wlcox Chargers. Washington will inbound for Los Angeles. 3:07 left in the second quarter. Around a screen is Rosenbaum. Now it's swung around. Here's Hamill. Drives in the paint, kicks out. Bad pass. Keller tries to save it. It's out of bounds, and will go to Wlcox. That's an unforced error. Inbound goes to Turturi. Now to Wycliffe, who's returned. Playing with 1 foul. Wycliffe swung around to Go. Go steps back. Out to Finafuyaki. And Tully gets it over to Wycliffe around the screen to his left. Crossing over. Bouncing it away. Go to Wycliffe. They play a 2-man game. Now bouncing it over to Finafuyaki. Back to Go. An open 3. Good! And we have a whistle.
Whistle off the ball.
It will go against Wlcox, but the basket will count, I think. That was the motion, at least. If the foul happened after he released the ball, it's a good shot. If it happened before, the shot shouldn't count. It looked like it was after he released it, so this should be a 3-point basket.
Or at the same time as.
Yeah.
Based on the timing of the whistle, it should count. Yeah, it does count.
They're saying it counts. Yeah.
And it's a holding foul off the ball.
Yeah, right there is where the held, but it definitely looked in that replay like he released the ball before the foul occurred. So what happens is the 3-point shot is good by Chad Go, making it 21-19 in favor of Wlcox. And now the person who got fouled, Matt Eberle, at the line shooting a 1-on-1, 17 foul on the Chargers. First free throw, rounding out no good. That last foul was called on Finafuyaki, his second. That rebound to Andrade, and here's Turi. Turi gets it over to Finafuyaki. Out to Go. He wants to reset. 2:15 left in the half. He crosses over. His team leads by 2. Wycliffe at the elbow. Wycliffe steps back, crossing over. Double team comes out to Go. Finafuyaki rotates to Turturi. Turturi to Go. He's jab step into the paint. Hands off to Wycliffe. Double team comes.
5
they
on the
have
clock.
4 to shoot. Great pass inside Andrade, and he scores it with 1 on the timer. Largest lead in the game for the Chargers over this match today at 23-19. All the way Hamill. No one cuts him off, and he lays it in.
Wow, that was a very impressive drive.
That's not going to make Robert Toloi, the head coach of Wlcox, happy. Now last play, 23-21. That was much too easy. Here's Turturi into the paint. Kicks out an open 3 by Finafuyaki. An air ball. Andrade gets it. Missed that. And scrum underneath. And a foul's called on Ahmad Washington of Los Altos. I'll be his first.
So check out the speed here and the composure. So he's going pretty fast, and he maintained control.
Yeah, that was key on that drive by Kenny Hamill.
Anyone can just take off full speed, but then you control that at the very end with a good touch at the basket. It's really easy when you're going full speed to just give it a little too much strength at the very end off your fingertips, and it just will bounce off the back of the iron and you'll miss. So that combination of speed and composure is pretty impressive.
There's a look-ahead pass for Rosenbaum, who lays it up and out, but a foul's called. And this will be on Andrade Eduardo, who just picked up or missed the front end of that one-on-one a moment ago. See, off the defensive rebound, there's bad floor spacing on the part of the Chargers, so someone left Rosenbaum wide open. And they were fortunate he didn't convert that layup for an opportunity of a three-point play. Rimming it in. Is Rosenbaum will get another. He's their best free throw shooter by percentage on this Eagle squad. Eden Kandick comes back for Wlcox, as well as Nolan Brennan for Los Altos. He replaces Matt Eberle. 1:16 left second quarter. It's 23-22 Wlcox. This free throw is for the tie. And it rims out. No good. Rebounded by Zerali. A really well-played first half on both sides. Here's Go. In the front court, hands off to Zerali. Now back to Go. Waves away the screen. Go drives. He flips it inside to Zerali. Reverse layup is good for Axel Zerali under a minute to go in the half. They again beat the full guard pressure. Here's Brennan. Out top. There's about a 22-second difference. Shot and game clock. Enough time to go 2 for 1 if they want. Here's Brennan. And his pass is stolen. Territory all the way will lay it up and in, and that's not the 2 for 1 I was talking about. That's a steal and a hoop for the Chargers. They lead by 5. Back comes Rosenbaum to Washington. 30 seconds left in the half. He lobs it over to Brennan. Brennan behind the back. 24 on the timer. They're dead even. Brennan down the lane. Floats one up. Offensive foul again called. This on Nolan Brennan. And Wlcox will have the final opportunity of that.
That's the 4th charge taken by Wlcox.
Yeah, they're certainly well schooled at that. For Brennan, it's his 2nd foul.
Very well coached and very well disciplined.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. Credit to the coaching staff for teaching him that.
The final 20 seconds of the second quarter. Here's Turturi. Stutters, breaks the press himself. Now looks to attack. Outside, a 3 is hoisted up, and it is good for Axel Zerali. Back the other way is Brennan. They can also bounce on 6 seconds.
That's who you want.
3. No shot. He traveled. Yeah, took an extra throw up and down the dribble. He was wide open. He almost got too excited. Wow, what a close to the half by Wlcox.
I know, right?
4 seconds left, and they have opportunity for more points.
Tied until a minute ago.
Yeah, and now it's 30-22. Back comes Go from half court, lobs it up, off last no. We reach halftime with the score. Wlcox 30, Los Altos 22. They end that half on a 15-7 run and take an 8-point lead into the break.
I want to talk a little bit about the charges that Wlcox has been taking. They've taken 4 so far, and 3 of them in my mind were actually really intentional, where the player actually steps in, sets his feet, and sets up like, I am going to take a charge here. And the other one was Wycliffe down low, where he kind of took some incidental contact and fell over, and they happened to call a charge. That is very impressive from the coaching staff. We used to do drills in college where you basically just stand there and you get run over by what feels like a freight truck.
Yeah.
Right? Or freight train.
Yeah.
And it was the worst. And it's difficult to have that mindset. So especially at this age with the coaching staff having done what they do, I'm pretty impressed by that.
So if we have reached halftime now, we'll step aside and come back with the second half action forthcoming. The score, Wlcox 30 and Los Altos 22. Welcome back here to Los Altos High School, everyone. Rhett Anderson and Andrew Fury with you as we are about ready to start the second half. Wlcox leading 30-22. Ended that half on a 11-3 run. They take this 8-point lead.
And I think the story of that first half for both teams was the pace, right?
Yeah.
In the end, I think it favored Wlcox, but for a long time during the first half, it was pretty much back and forth, tied or close to tied.
Yeah.
And it was only at the very end that Wlcox kind of got a few lucky breaks and got a few breakaways and a couple of layups here and there, and they were able to take advantage. And the reason for that was the pace and the pressure for the whole game.
Yeah. As there's an open 3 made by Raymond Tolloy. 33-22, and Tommy Andrews is down injured for Los Altos. He got clocked in by an elbow, I believe. Let's see the replay. Looked like that's what happened. Inadvertent, but an elbow got him on top of the head. So we got an injured player down. And that's what the stoppage is. 7:29 left.
Another thing to look for in the second half that we saw a lot of in the first half, and has to do with the pace, is the pressure, the full court pressure. We saw both teams pressure, although each team did a little bit different from how the other team did. Yeah. Los Altos had a kind of a flexible bend but don't break, I call it, three-quarter press with kind of two guards in the front court, you know, and the rest, the other three, including the post players, kind of back. Yeah. Wlcox was very different. They had all five guys in front of the half-court line, and that actually gave Los Altos a couple opportunities. They got some long passes over the defense once or twice. They didn't capitalize on them, but they were there. And that's another thing to look at here in the second half, is whether those teams can keep up that press.
There's a right corner or left corner three missed by Matt Eberle, and we have a foul on the floor on the rebounding activity against Wlcox. It will go on number 22, Eden Kandick, for the Chargers, who lead at 33-22. They're now on a 14-3 run, dating back to the late stages first half. For Kandick, that was his second foul, first team foul in the half. Here's Kenny Hamill, who's checked in for the injured Tommy Andrews, who got up and was able to walk off under his own power. Eberle with it out top, gets it to Brennan. Brennan in the paint, the runner off back rim, no good. Hamill fighting for it, deflected out. Heck to Brennan. Now to Eberle. Eberle inside to Heck. Heck drives, loses it, dives back on the floor, nearly got up. I think that's a travel, but not called, and Wlcox comes away with it. Driving is Turturi. Pump faking is Zerali. Turturi back to Zerali. Now there's Toloi. Right wing. Turturi. Over to Wycliffe. Left wing. Wycliffe. And his pass goes off the fingers of Zerali out of bounds.
Man, Zerali's got to be ready for that. As you're... Take another look at the block here.
Yeah, that was a fantastic knockaway by Turturi.
So when you're Zerali on the short corner like that, and you're kind of on the opposite block, and you're looking for the driver coming from the far wing, you've got to be ready for that, because you're one of the primary options. That driver can shoot, pass, or continue dribbling, right? And often the defense is there, and they're focused on taking away the shot. And if the shot is taken away, which it is, you know, more or less half the time, then Zerali's got to be there, hands up, and ready to catch that ball.
And that was a good runner made by Matt Eberle, and we have a timeout called by Wlcox with the score 33-24 in favor of Wlcox. 6:05 left, third quarter. See, this was a great move. Eberle handing it off to Brennan, and he certainly has put up a lot of those running teardrops in the lane in this game.
Yeah, he's got that runner down.
Yeah. So Wlcox called this timeout. I mean, it wasn't really to stop a run, because that was where the first points scored this half by Los Altos. But maybe it was to set up something on the offensive end. 33-24 in favor of Wlcox. Here as we play 6:05 left in the third quarter.
So Tommy Andrews, the guard who got hit on the head with the elbow last time, he's over there with the trainer on the far side of the bench, and it looks, I think I recognize this. I think the trainer is worried he has a concussion. He's putting him through all sorts of exercises to check his balance and stuff like that. He was doing some jumping jacks and then sort of walking along a line, you know?
Yeah, he certainly was dazed after that.
I'd be very surprised if that was any kind of a concussion. I didn't see too much contact, but you can never be too careful, right?
Yeah, definitely. And certainly in this day and age. There's the Raleigh to Wycliffe. Wycliffe spins into the paint. He floats one up and good for Jace Wycliffe. Yeah, beautiful move. 35-24 now. Hamill into the front court. Hamill shovels it along. Here's Heck, the left-handed jump hook, no good.
If Heck wants to get that, he's got to go right up as soon as he has that opening. It doesn't last, right? If you wait and you take that extra dribble, the power pro hop into the middle of the key, you know, 9 times out of 10, there's 3 guys collapsing on you, and you make it harder on yourself. You only have that split-second window to throw it up.
Here's Wycliffe. Gets it out to Turturi. Now Zarali a three. Good for Axel Zarali. Hamill bats it ahead to himself. Into the paint, floats one up, no good off glass, and rebounded inside by Whitecliff, and Wlcox suddenly leads by 14. 5 minutes to go, third quarter. Zarali, another three. Good again!
Heat check.
And they're going to call a timeout as Los Altos, who they trail by 17.
A couple of quick ones, blows it wide open. Both by Zarali.
We'll see a great feed. And then Zarali, I mean, he just made one. You can't leave him wide open. Here's the first one. Turturi getting it out to Zarali. He has a nice stroke from downtown.
Yeah, the first one we looked at, it was actually pretty well contested. Could have been better, sure, but, you know, the defender was there. But that first one, he was wide open.
Yeah. 4:53 left in the third quarter. We'll take a break. It's Wlcox leading 41-24. Okay, welcome back here to Los Altos. 41-24 in favor of Wlcox after that full timeout. The Eagles need to make a push here or else they won't be long for being in this game. There's Brennan against the full court pressure. They trail by 17 and have 13 minutes to do something with it, about it. Here's Hamill, who drives the baseline. Floats one up and under. Thought he got fouled. No call. Rebounded to Zarali.
You can't be concerned with that no call, though.
Yeah.
The ball was floating right by his head. You know, if he was maybe less concerned with the ref, he might have got the loose ball. You know, maybe not, but he might have, right?
Yeah. And now Zarali takes the cross-court pass and misses a three. Comes right to Toloi. He floats one up off glass. No good. Gets it back. This is actually Michael Stewart now, and he floats one up and in. Number 44, Michael Stewart doing work. And it's 43-24.
That right there is how you beat the press. That post player coming into the middle.
And a three put in by Matt Eberle.
And that's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
If you get the ball into the middle on the press break, you have way more options, and you get wide open lanes. Shots, drives to the basket, I mean, you name it. The key is getting it in the middle.
There's Zarali, who misses a three. Rebound to Kandik, who puts it up and out. And rebounded by Brennan. So Los Angeles trails by 16. If they can get it to single digits, if there's a steal by Go, by the fourth quarter, they can have something. Whitecliff lays it in on the great feed from Chan Go. Here's the pitch. And he gets it over to Eberle. Eberle hands off to Brennan. Brennan stutters into the paint, floats one up off glass and in. Makes it 45-29. Go gets it over to Whitecliff. 3:15 and counting left in the third quarter. It's Go. Go pounding the dribble, feeding Zarali. Cut off baseline, rotates it up top. Driving is Stewart, floats one up, a lot of contact, no call. Stewart gets it back, over to Go. Go pounding the dribble. Gets it out for a three for Stewart, and that is good.
Man, they can't miss. They've hit 4 or 5 of their last 8 threes.
Yeah.
Like that.
48-29. Rosenbaum into the front court. Drives, great feet underneath, but Keller couldn't hold on to it, and it's taken away by Zarali. Back come Go, trying to extend this lead past 20. Go over to Zarali, who pump fakes. Drives, floats one up, and an offensive foul is called on Axel Zarali.
So I think he was in position for that. I didn't get a real good look at it, but I think his feet were set.
Now, it looked to me like that was a good call as well.
So I think he gets his feet, no. I couldn't quite see it from that angle, but it looked like he was still moving into the offensive player, and his feet weren't quite set, and that's the key to a charge.
Yeah. There's a layup miss, but a late foul called. And so Adam Rosenbaum will be at the line to shoot 2.
And typically, to get the charge call, you have to be there before the defender arrives. And I believe in high school, you have to be outside of the key, so outside of the paint, and you have to be not moving into the defender. So you got to be there and stationary and down before the offensive player gets there. And I just don't think that was the case there.
So here's Rosenbaum to the line to shoot 2. And the first one's up and good. Makes it 48-30 in favor of the Chargers. 2:16 left in the third. That last foul was called on Andrade Eduardo. So he picks up his second, third team foul on the Chargers in the half. And the free throw is good. So Rosenbaum cuts it to 17. If they can somehow get this lead down to 11 or 10 by the fourth, they'll have a chance. As there's a pass deflected out of bounds, and they'll stay with the Chargers. (48-31) in favor of Wlcox. Go, inbounds to Andrade, gets it back, open three, good! What a play by Chad Go. And here's Washington. Now lead back up to 20. Brennan floats one up and good.
That little runner, he's pretty good at that.
Certainly is. But they're going to need a lot more of that. Down by 18, Go. Swung around to Finafuiaki. Now back to Go. Out to Finafuiaki. He drives in the paint, floats one up. No good. A blocking foul called on the Eagles.
Pretty good call, I thought. So the ball's gonna come back to him.
And yeah, it looked like that was a good call. The defender slid under him. And so Tali Hasakaya Finafuiaki will be at the line to shoot two.
Yeah, and I think that was the right call. That was Bailey Thayer down there who was charged with the block. And he had the right idea. He was there trying to take a charge, but he was overly eager, and so he leaned into the defender to initiate that contact, and that's, I think, what got him the block.
So Finafuiaki to the line to shoot two after the mess is cleaned up. But minute 39 left, third quarter, and the first free throw is short. Stays 51-33, Wlcox. That was just the first team foul in the half on Los Altos. I'm checking back in for the Eagles is Simon Heck. The lefty Finafuiaki bends and fires, and he knew he missed that one. Tried to get the rebound, taken down by Heck. So he misses both. Here comes Washington. Washington stutters into the paint, kicks it out. A deep three from Brennan is around and out. Rebounded by Go. I was
halfway down.
Yeah, he was right on target. Go now double teamed. Gets it out to Toloi. Toloi pounding the dribble with the left, stutters. Gets it out to Finafuiaki. Now here's Go, crossing over into the paint. Stumbles, gets it to Andrade. Eduardo, who misses. Eduardo gets it back. He fumbles it again, double teamed. And they'll say three in the key on Eduardo.
That's the right call.
Chargers, yeah.
That's the right call. It's pretty good lockdown defense there. And Eduardo's in a tough spot. He's right on the baseline. He's hemmed in by the backside of the backboard and three defenders. It's pretty good defense. That was the right call.
Washington on the attack, gets it poked away, and a foul's called. So Ahmad Washington will be at the line to shoot two. See, Washington, great job of attacking the press. There wasn't any trap on that press, like there has been many a time here in this game for the Wlcox Chargers. So he's able to break it. No one stopped the ball, so he got himself to the foul line. And the free throw is around and out. So that foul was called on Finafuiaki, his third, the fourth team foul on Chargers. And the lead now 51-34. Favor Wlcox, final 55.9 seconds of this third quarter. Also, Manu Turi has returned for the Chargers. And the free throw is good by Washington. And the lead cut to 16. Just 5 fouls called in the quarter. 4 on Wlcox, 1 on Los Altos. Here's Toloi. Toloi had it poked away and then pokes it out of bounds. It'll be Los Altos basketball with 47.8 left. Now they'll set up their full court pressure. Inbound goes into the middle to Tommy Andrews to check back.
Now, if you want to beat this press, the ball needs to go into the middle.
Here's Andrews with it. Great feed to Simon Heck.
There you go.
It in. Final 39 seconds of the quarter. And we have a timeout called by the Chargers. And the coach cannot believe it. See, Washington just brings it down, headmans it up ahead. And then Andrews, a great feed. See, passing always breaks a press much easier than dribbling.
So 2 things I noticed about that press break. One, it was it was not the. It didn't look like the best decision, that sideline pass, because it was almost stolen. Made it through with like a hair's width to spare. But then after that, that was Heck down low, who was there in position at the right time, right? He knew the ball was coming. He knew it was coming in fast because, like you said, you want to beat the press with the pass, not with the dribble. And he was, easy bucket. The defense can't react as fast as you can pass it.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, I find it here, that there's only 37.6 seconds left in the quarter. And now Wlcox only has 2 timeouts remaining. So most coaches, I've noticed, in high school would have let them play through this and gotten to the end of the quarter not needing to spend a timeout, and then at the end of the quarter expresses displeasure. But obviously Robert Toloy was so upset with the last sequence that he felt he needed to call timeout there. So there's Finifuyaki against the trap, gets it to Turi. Final 28 seconds, there's about a 2.5-second difference shot on game clock. Cross court, here is Toloy. Into the paint, nearly had it poked away. Gets out to Turi. Into the paint, outside to Finifuyaki. And we have a 3 in the key, I think. Yeah, 3 seconds. Called. That's Weinberger Theo. Or Theo Weinberger that was in the paint too long. He's checked in for the first time. Inbound goes to Andrews, and Washington controls. They can hold for the final shot. Can make it 12 or 11 on the strip, but instead of poked away, and a push is going to be called on the Chargers instead of having that steal with 9.2 seconds left.
Yeah, this is an easy call, though. He came barreling in from behind. Yeah, no, definitely a push.
And that's the 4th on Finifuyaki. He's 1 foul away from being disqualified now. Inbound goes to Washington. Final 8 seconds. 51-37 Chargers. Washington starters in on Finifuyaki. Baseline jumper, no good. Rebound deflected around. It comes to Toloy, and that will end the 3rd quarter. In that 3rd quarter, it was won by Wlcox. A score of 21-15, and after 3 quarters, it's 51-37 Chargers. All right, welcome back here to Los Altos High School. Ready to start the 4th quarter. Washington with it for the Eagles, who trail it by 14, 51-37. There's Keller with the ball, who stops, high post, gets it over to Thayer, who's in for the 2nd time in the game. Here's Washington crossing over high post. Washington with the back door cut to Keller, lays it up and in, and he was fouled. So that makes it 51-39.
So Keller got that. I think we'll see this in replay. Watch. He sells it really well. I think we didn't quite see it, but what he did was he went from the block out to the near side 3-point line as if he was going to catch the ball out there, and that forced the defender to essentially respect him and go out to guard him. And because he made that fake and he sold it so well, that gave him the split second to go back door. If you didn't sell that, he doesn't get the back door.
So that foul was called on Eden Kandick, his 3rd, and the free throw good, makes it an 11-point game. Throwing it underneath to Kandick, who tries to muscle up, an air ball, and it comes away to Keller, who wants to attack. A 2-on-1 if they hurry. And his pass goes out of bounds. Was it deflected? No, it wasn't, says the officials. It'll go back to the Chargers, who lead it 51-40.
He might have touched it. Maybe not.
Yeah, it was very close. I can see without the use of replay how you weren't sure and had to call it one way. Yeah, that was really close.
I changed direction. Tough to tell, but I think he might have deflected it.
Wycliffe now drives and gets hacked. So Jace Wycliffe will be at the line to shoot 2. The foul. See who they say that on.
Again, not quite sure about that. They say the hand is part of the ball, and from what I could see, only got the hand.
Yeah, that was interesting. A couple close calls going against the Eagles. That foul was called on Simon Heck, his 3rd. And the 2nd team foul on the Eagles. Free throw no good by Wycliffe.
You know what they say?
Pretty good foul shooter.
Ball don't lie.
Yeah.
That first free throw after a contested foul call like that, if you make it, foul was good. If you miss it, wrong call.
Every time.
It's science, man.
Yeah. He split the pair, 52-40 in favor of the Chargers.
It's only that first free throw after the foul. That tells you whether it was a good call or not.
And now an over and a back. They're saying Heck had established in the front court and then leaped, and as he was in the air, caught the ball, making it over the back. A bad mistake by the Eagles that they can't afford down 12.
Yeah, it's the right play. He jumped from the back court into the front court. You gotta have your feet down. It's like football. You gotta have your feet down with the ball before the ball comes in.
Yeah, that was a good call. Here's Eduardo out top. Eduardo gets it over to Toloy. Toloy pounding the dribble, lobs it into Andrade. Eduardo misses, spins it out, rebounded, taken down by Brennan. Brennan crosses over and hit the back of his heel, taken away by Toloy. Actually, it's Turi. Turi spins, flips one up off glass, no good. Rebound deflected around and comes to Hamill. Back comes Washington. Washington stutters in the front court. Great drive, feed to Heck, who missed the layup. That was Keller, rebounded by Wycliffe, and he's going to get called for traveling. With 6:22 left in regulation. So 6:22 left, fourth quarter. Score 52-40. Favor Wlcox. Los Altos will have the ball following the turnover. They're still trying to mop up some sweat from the floor. And here it will be Tommy Andrews to inbound. He gets it into Brennan. Brennan, again, working on Wycliffe, steps back. Brennan looks under pressure. Gets it out. Here's Keller. Drives baseline. His pass deflected and stolen. Another turnover to Raleigh. And his pass to Toloy is fumbled and a foul's called. The third on Los Altos. This one's going to go on Adam Keller. Yeah, that was a great play on the deflection by Wycliffe. It's their best player, and a timeout on the floor. A 30-second timeout called by the Eagles, who trail it 52-40. Oh. 16 fouls have been called on the Chargers, 3 on the Eagles in this half. But not much ground has been made up since Wlcox got that 20-point lead. They've kind of just been chipping away, and with 6 minutes left, it's still definitely doable, but they're going to have to make more of a forceful comeback.
I do think there's been a little bit of a shift in the momentum. And I know it's like a really hard thing to define, right?
Yeah.
But it feels, from watching anyways, that Los Altos has kind of regained a little bit of the edge in the last few minutes. And I think that shows on the scoreboard. They've cut into the lead a little bit. But the key is to keep that up, and you have to capitalize on it, and even more than you normally would, because you're down by 12 with a few minutes to go.
Yeah, certainly. Here's Wycliffe after the timeout. Hands off to Go. Go crosses over in on Keller. Gets it out to Toloy. Now, pounding the dribble to Turi. Gets it over to Go. Go drives in the paint all the way. Flips one up and in by Chad Go. That makes it 54-40. There's Brennan over to Washington. Washington lobs it over to Brennan. Brennan into the front court. Gets it back to Washington. Pounding the dribble. Crosses over into the paint. Kicks out open. 3 for Andrews. Back iron miss. Rebound inside by Keller, who lays it up and in, and he was fouled.
Good box out from Keller.
54-42 in favor of the Chargers with 5:27 left.
Long shots, long rebounds. You know, when they're coming off, they'll go a little further.
Now this is interesting because now that's the 17th foul on the Wlcox. So Los Altos is in the bonus. Every common foul will result in free throws. That was the first foul on Manu Turi. So Los Altos, every time they're fouled, that's not an offensive foul, they'll be shooting free throws. An easy way to get back into this game, but not like that. Leaving a guy wide open underneath the hoop was Axel Zerali to lay it in. 56-43 now. Lobbing it in the front court is Hamill. Pounding it over. Good bounce pass to Tommy Andrews, who lays it in. 5 minutes left. 56-45.
That was a good press break. Very economical. Mostly passing. One quick dribble at the end. 3 guys involved.
Here's Go, who spins. Pounding the dribble, and he traveled. Good call by the officials. It definitely looked like Chad Go shuffled the feet with 4:47 left. Just 3 team fouls have been called on Los Altos, so while they get free throws every time they're fouled, they can be aggressive defensively and not worry about putting Wlcox at the line. Very enviable position. However, what isn't is that they trail 56-45. Crossing over is Brennan into the paint, pump faking. Outside to Hamill. Hamill hands off to Andrews. Back to Brennan. Crosses over, splits defenders. Good pass underneath to Keller, who lost it, saved it, but goes to Toloy. Another turnover. Here's Wycliffe. Wycliffe on the attack all the way, leans in, off glass, no, but a blocking foul is called on Kenny Hamill. 14th foul on the Eagles. Look at this great look ahead to Wycliffe. And then Wycliffe, yeah, that was, again, really bang. Down at the end with the block charge call.
I don't know. That could have gone either way real easy.
Yeah, I know. Seems like there have been a ton of those 50-50 calls in this game. Wycliffe makes the first. They'll get another 57-45 Chargers.
You know, maybe it's this end of the court that inspires all the charges.
Yeah, exactly.
Wlcox took 5 down here or something like that, down here in the first half. None down there in the second half. And Los Altos has 3 or 4 this half down here, too.
Yeah, that's a very astute point you make. Here's the free throw. It's good. So Wycliffe makes both. 4:18 left, 58-45. Here's Brennan. Pounding the dribble over to Washington.
Still that 10 to 12 to 13-point lead for Wlcox.
Washington now drives. Layup no good. Rebounded by Toloy. Toloy gets it over to Wycliffe. Wycliffe to Stewart. Good feet underneath. A good pump fake and a lay-in for Zarali. Back come the Eagles, now trailing by 15. They need to make a move now, and that's not doing it. Throwing it to the referee who's standing out of bounds. So Keller turns it over. We'll go back to the Chargers with 3:45 left. And we're going to have another timeout here. This is going to go for the Eagles. So they're out of timeouts now. They've used all 4 they're allotted.
Wlcox is floating around that 10 to 15-point lead. You know, and they've responded to every Eagles challenge, and, you know, the clock's ticking away.
So with 3:45, we'll take a final break here. Fourth quarter, it's Wlcox 60 and Los Altos 45. Welcome back here to Los Altos High School for the final 3:45. Inbound goes to Raymond Tolo. Gets it to Wycliffe. Now the Chargers would be prudent of them to use some clock. Turturi over to Toloy. They lead by 15, 3.5 left. Here's Zarali. Toloy pump fakes, drives right around the defender and lays it in.
No second level of defense. No help there.
Yeah, and they're still pressing, leaving up at 17. Looks like they have full, total control of this game at this point, but all they know how to do is press. Brennan breaks it and now dribbles over to Hamill. Hamill pounding the dribble outside to Andrews to pull up 3. Good.
That's impressive. That was a real tough shot to make.
Tommy Andrews, now the baseball pass. Good catch by Zarali. Into the defender, a blocking foul's called. Andrews doesn't like it, but Axel Zarali will be at the line to shoot 2. 2:58 left in the fourth quarter.
Real tough shot down there at the other end. Off balance, coming off the dribble. Hand in his face.
Zarali misses the first. He'll get another. That was the second foul called on Adam Keller. Or actually, I'm not sure it should have been, but they called that foul on Keller. I believe it should have been on Tommy Andrews. The 15th foul on the Eagles, that much I do know. And Zarali will make the second. So 63-48. Favor of Wlcox. More pressure. Inbound goes to Brennan. Brennan lobs a good catch made by Andrews.
Yeah, saved the possession.
Into the front court, behind the back, hands off to Washington. No look outside, a three by Eberly around it out. Rebound underneath by Keller, missed that. Rebound is taken away by Wilcox, and a foul called on Los Altos. Just their sixth. No free throws yet.
Should go on Keller, the foul.
Yeah, and for Keller, that's his third. See off the miss. Good activity underneath by Keller, but just couldn't get that to go home. And another mop-up duty underneath. So it's 2:39 left. 63-48 in favor of Wilcox. Throws the ball underneath Los Altos' shooting coop.
Hey guys, let's get some sneakers in there.
Yeah.
Help the ref out.
Now they'll put the ball in play with Manu Turturi. Turturi looks and inbounds to Wycliffe. Wycliffe into the front court. Pounding it up ahead to Turturi, leans in and floats one up and in. So Manu Turturi with the lay-in, makes it 65-48. Washington jump pass to Eberly. Lee behind the back. Gets it over around a screen. Brennan, a three way off. Rebound secured by Brennan. He just ripped it away. Cross court, three for Eberly. Air ball. Saved by Andrews, back to Eberly. Tommy Andrews out top. Now Brennan a three. That's short. They can't buy one. Rebound underneath by Turturi, and he gets knocked to the floor. Foul called.
Yeah.
So Manu Turturi will be at the line to shoot a 1-on-1, 17 foul on the Eagles.
I think Brennan had 3 offensive rebounds there. I'm not sure if that was, might have been him. Yeah, there's his first. Oh no, that was the last shot.
Yeah. Yeah,
anyways, I think it was Brennan who had a few offensive rebounds there.
His foul was called. Matt Eberly is first.
Heads up play, because typically, I said this earlier, but typically the longer the shot, the longer the rebound. Not always, but you know, the ball's coming in with a lot more force, so it's probably going to bounce off if you miss it. You know, it'll end up further away. Yeah. So it's a heads up play from the guard to come flying in. Has a better shot of getting that rebound.
Yeah, most definitely.
He can put a lot more speed into his jump too.
So here's Turturi, and the front end is no good, but the ball deflected out, and they'll say last touch by Los Altos. No, he corrected his call, and we'll give it to the Eagles.
Yeah, that was the right correction.
Yeah.
That was clearly off Wilcox.
So 2:01 left in the fourth quarter, 65-48. Favor of the Chargers. Inbounding it is Jake Shaw. They'll make that Chris Perez on the court for the first time. 33 to not 32, and there's a three for Eberly. Back iron miss. Rebound deflect around comes to Turturi. Lob ahead to Stewart. He'll lay it in, and that might put a cap on this one. 19-point lead for the Chargers. It's Washington in the front court. Gets it up ahead to Eberly. Cross court. And swung around to Washington. Most of the reserves are in now. Perez, power dribble, goes up, gets fouled. He'll be at the line to shoot 2 with a minute and a half left. So a minute and a half left, fourth quarter. And the first free throw is good by Perez. So 67-49. Favor Wlcox, final minute and a half. This game has really been dominated by the Chargers. Certainly in the second half, but it really started at the end of the first half.
And not just the Chargers, but more specifically, I think, at least from what I've seen, the Chargers defense in the full court press. And secondly, their length guarding off the ball, right? So they can get in the passing lanes. You know, they can help down quickly onto the block and recover pretty fast. And I think that athleticism helped them a lot.
As there's a drive and a bad shot missed by Theo Weinberger, who's on the floor for the first time for the Wlcox Chargers. Minute 9 left, fourth quarter, 67-49 in favor of the Chargers. Into the front court, goes Shaw. He will hand off to Perez. Hands off to Washington, final minute. Washington for three. Good for Ahmad Washington. He's really struggled out there today.
You may be up, but you can't just leave a good shooter wide open like that.
Now trying to break the press is Stewart. Gets over to Weinberger, and he traveled. With 42.9 seconds left, 67-52. Here's the last shot by Washington, and it was around the curl, a great open look, and he nailed it.
I see what happened there. The two defenders, they got hung up on the screener, and so that was a miscommunication. One of those defenders, depending on how the coach told them to play it, you could either what's called matting it and get the defender right up against the screener, so that when they come across, it's basically just a slip through and there's no switch. Or alternatively, you could switch it so that the screener and left Washington wide open. So
final 30 seconds here. They don't really have to shoot again. There's only a 1 second difference between the shot and the game clock. Here's Finafuiaki. Finafuiaki into the paint. Bounces it over to Weinberger outside to Eduardo, who pump fakes, drives, floats one up, off back rim, no good. Rebound deflected out off of the Chargers with 15.5 seconds left. Brezwell inbound to Washington. This will improve Wilcox. Their overall mark to 2-1 in league play, tied for second, and that will rim out. Rebounded by the Chargers, and they'll hold for the final shot and not even take one. Horn will sound, and the Chargers with a strong second half performance take this one, beating Los Altos on their home court 67-52. Final thoughts.
Yeah, that was the key, the strong second half, right? For the score at halftime was 30-22, which, you know, at first glance looks, all right, not too close of a game. It's a pretty good first half from Wlcox, but really that 8-point difference came in the last minute or two. So for most of the first half, they were effectively playing each other even, and it wasn't until the second half that Wlcox's athleticism and, you know, their length in the passing lanes and their pressure in the full court, that's when it really all came to, you know, it bore fruit.
Yeah.
That second half is where Wlcox was able to make up that difference.
So the final score, once again, Wlcox 67 and Los Altos 52. Producer and director for tonight's game was Bobby Chastain. On cameras, Ted Melke, Veronica Craven, and Tim Erskine, and Atif Hussein. Now for Rhett Anderson, I'm Andrew Fury saying so long from Los Altos, California, and Los Altos High School. Final score here, the Wlcox Chargers 67 and Los Altos 52.